This is a timing belt change for a 2011 Subaru Legacy. The Outback is going to be identical. If you have a slightly earlier model, single overhead cam, this might be almost identical for you. But this is a 2011. I think I'm maybe 8,000 miles past due for a timing belt chain. This is the kit that I got. Pretty high quality, made in Japan. I'm replacing the water pump as well as a serpentine belt. It's way past due. And I'm going to do this step by step, make several different videos, edit them together. Again, 2.5 single overhead cam. First step, get the car jacked up, make yourself as comfortable as possible, get you some lighting, and just to make the, jack it up to make it easier to reach the belt and to get underneath, because we're going to be draining the coolant and changing the water pump also. Step number one, after you've done all that, is remove these two clips and move this snorkel out of the way, and then these two clips and remove that piece of plastic, and then we'll remove the belly pan, the little engine cover, plastic engine cover underneath. And I'm not going to do that on camera, and if you can't figure that out, then you probably need to be just looking for a mechanic, I guess. I'm not a super skilled mechanic, but I have some engine experience. We're going to pull this reservoir tube. See, after I get those three things removed, overflow tank tube off of here. Pop this clip out with a screwdriver, and then the tank will completely come out, and we'll drain this off in a bucket. And then we're going to remove these two bolts at the top of each radiator fan, and then unplug them from the bottom. And these should pull right out or go down, whichever is easier. And then we'll start draining the coolant. Okay, I got the coolant draining. I took a 15 millimeter on the serpentine belt tensioner like this to release the pressure on the serpentine belt. Took the serpentine belt off. It doesn't look terrible, but it's got some cracks on the underside, the ribbed side, when you fold it back, and it's never been changed, so it has 114,000 miles on it. Looked pretty good actually for 114,000 miles. Got the coolant draining. Going to remove this. I opened up the drain plug in the bottom and then loosened this, and then I'll remove this, and then next I'll remove these little engine mount things. It's also 15 millimeters. I think I'll only have to remove, I think just this one, and this one, and this one, to take that whole thing off as one piece. Now I'm taking off the timing chain cover on one side. 3 bolts, one on the bottom, one lower right, one on the top. We got one exposed. It looks like the other piece is going to come off all as one piece. So next is the The infamous pulley bolt. I'll let you know how that worked out. Okay, I got the crank pulley loose and I did the old bump start method. I just stuck it up against that engine mount with that rag right there and then bumped the ignition. I seen it done. That's apparently what did it. I was wrestling with it otherwise. So yeah, if you're doing this, I just recommend you go ahead and use the bump start method. Okay, I got the other cover off. It was just a matter of feeling around for all these bolts and just getting them out one by one. There's 10 of them plus this one right here, which is a different kind of bolt. I don't know why. And then I accidentally removed the upper thermostat housing bolt because I thought it was holding this thing down and it wasn't. I was just going by feel, but that's no big deal because it's got to come out anyway. Okay, I'm making progress. I believe I got all the timing marks lined up. You can see that one. Depends on what angle you look at it. This one over here. Lined up with that mark pretty good. That mark. Don't go by the paint mark on the pulley, because that's a confirmation at the factory that it was checked. Now I assume, I'm not sure exactly what the timing mark on the block is supposed to be. I guess it's just that line right there, because everything else is lined up. So now I can start removing. I'm going to take that one off first because it's under the least amount of belt tension. And then all the rest of them, including that tensioner. I got a new tensioner. I can't see if that's leaking down in there or not. It doesn't matter because I got a new one. So now I'm just going to take it all off, I guess, and then try to get that water pump. I got the belt off, and I gotta say, it looks pretty good for being about 8,000 miles over. I couldn't really find anything wrong with it. I mean, I didn't compare the bump sizes, but I've went over the entire belt and I couldn't find much wrong with it. So I probably would have been fine just leaving it in there, but peace of mind. Now I'm going to start tackling the water pump. This little gasket came off. I don't know if I should stick that to the cover or try to leave it on the engine, but it's probably going to give me a fit. Now I got to get the work on the water pump. These hoses are probably going to be the biggest pain in the butt. I think there's what, 2 in there, 2 back there. Going to the heater core, I think, and then this big one. And I'm sure I'll get a little more coolant coming out, but that's next. Okay, I got the water pump out. Yeah, that hose right there was probably the hardest part, and it wasn't too bad. That big hose there wasn't too bad. Getting that one back on is probably going to be a pain in the butt. I think I said these idler pulleys were 15 millimeter, but they were 14 millimeter. And now I have to switch over this housing from the old water pump to the new water pump and go ahead and put a new thermostat in. I mean, my timing belt looked good. All my idler pulleys were making a little bit of noise. You're probably not going to hear that. That one's not very much. All my idlers were making a little bit of noise, but the belts look good. Serpentine belt was a little cracked. Timing belt looks good. Water pump was fine. I'm just changing it because I don't want to go in there again. I haven't seen any oil leaks at the cam seals, although I can check them a little bit closer, I guess. And make sure you get the OEM thermostat. I've heard some people having problems with non-OEM thermostats. And yeah, when you go to refill your coolant, they recommend you use this. So I'm going to switch out that housing and put the new thermostat in and keep trucking along. Timing belt is on now, and I haven't pulled the pin yet on the tensioner. It wasn't that hard, really. It was a little tricky getting the tensioners in. I think I got them all torqued. I put them all at 29 foot-pounds. I'll double check them before I go start putting the cover back on. And yeah. See what we do. I'll do the crank test where you rotate your crank 2 times and then make sure all your marks line up again. But don't pay attention to the yellow lines on the belt anymore, because it's going to take a lot more than 2 rotations for them to come back around and line back up with the marks. So you're just going to go off of the marks on the pulleys and the sprocket here. I forget how many engine rotations it takes for the lines on the belt to line back up with the marks, but it's a lot, and more than I care to stand here and crank it. I did it with the spark plugs left in, and I don't think it was that bad. I was going to do that, but I'm kind of glad I didn't go through that mess, because I changed the spark plugs once, and it was not fun. So I'm going to pull that pin, check the torque on everything I've put in so far, and then do the spin test. 2 crankshaft rotations. Make sure everything lines up again.